The most common halal ETF mistake is not picking a bad fund. It is picking the right fund for the wrong country. A fund that is perfect for someone in the UK may not even be available to someone in the United States. A US halal ETF may only own American companies. And a fund can say, Sharia-compliant, while still leaving one bigger question unanswered. Who is actually checking it? And how is purification handled? That is why this video goes deeper than just giving you a list of tickers. I will show you the 5 questions that help you choose a halal fund based on where you live, whether you want growth or income, how much diversification you really have, and the Sharia standard you trust. By the end, you will know which funds are worth researching, and which mistakes to avoid before investing your money. This is educational content, not personal financial advice. All investing involves risk. Question number 1. Where do you live? This sounds obvious. But it is the biggest filter. Because a great halal ETF is useless if you cannot buy it easily, if it is expensive through your broker, or if it does not fit the tax rules where you live. If you live in Europe or the UK, you will usually look at UCITS ETFs. If you live in the United States, you will normally compare US-listed halal ETFs. If you live in Canada, you may want a Canadian-listed option, or compare it with US ETFs available through your broker. And if you live in Australia, you may choose between locally listed Sharia funds and international passive options. So do not copy somebody's portfolio from YouTube before checking one simple thing. Is this fund actually practical for me? Question number 2. Do you want one simple global fund? Or do you want to build your own portfolio from different funds? Question number 3. Do you want dividends paid out to you? Or do you want them automatically reinvested? Question number 4. How important are formal Sharia governance and purification to you? And question number 5. What are you paying in fees, and how concentrated is the fund really? Because a fund can own hundreds of companies and still depend heavily on a few giant technology companies. Let us start with Europe and the UK. One of the best-known halal ETFs is the iShares MSCI World Islamic UCITS ETF. Its ISIN is IE00B27 yttrium cyanide. This is one of the oldest established Islamic ETFs. It launched in 2007. It covers Sharia-compliant companies in developed markets. Its annual fee is 0.30%. And it is distributing. That means dividends are paid out to you. This may suit you if you want investment income, or if you prefer to reinvest the dividends yourself. But there is one important limitation. It is developed markets only. It does not give you proper emerging market exposure. So you are not getting a complete global portfolio in one fund. Now compare that with the Invesco Dow Jones Islamic Global Developed Markets UCITS ETF. Its ISIN is IE000UOXRAM8. This fund is also developed markets only. But it is accumulating. That means dividends stay inside the fund and are reinvested automatically. For someone investing every month for long-term growth, that can be very attractive. Its annual fee is 0.40%. So yes, it costs a little more than iShares. But Invesco stands out for another reason. It publishes Sharia documentation and provides a dividend purification calculator. But here is an important detail. Accumulating does not automatically mean purification has happened for you. Income can be reinvested inside the fund. So if purification matters to you, you still need to understand the provider's method and decide how you want to make any charitable donation yourself. Now let us look at the HSBC MSCI World Islamic Screened UCITS ETF. Its ISIN is IE000X9FTI22. This is also accumulating. Its annual fee is 0.30%. It follows an MSCI World Islamic approach with additional ESG-related exclusions. And it has a Sharia committee that monitors the fund and issues an annual Sharia certificate. That makes it very interesting for someone who wants low-cost accumulation and formal fund-level Sharia oversight. But there is a trade-off. It is newer and smaller than the long-running iShares fund. So ask yourself, do I prefer a bigger, older fund with a longer history? Or do I prefer an accumulating fund with a governance approach that better matches my own priorities? There is no automatic winner. Now what if you want one fund that includes both developed and emerging markets? This is where the Invesco MSCI ACWI Islamic M-Series UCITS ETF becomes interesting. Its ISIN is IE000LFC57H7. It is accumulating. Its annual fee is 0.35%. And it is designed to cover Sharia-compliant companies from both developed and emerging markets. That makes it one of the closest options to a one-fund global halal equity solution for investors in Europe and the UK. But there is a major warning. It launched in 2026. That does not mean it is bad. It simply means it is new. It does not yet have the long history, large asset base, or established trading record of older funds. So this is a decision between simplicity and history. Do you want one global fund and accept that it is new? Or do you prefer older funds and build your own combination? For example, a developed market Islamic ETF is the core, plus an emerging markets fund as an add-on. That brings us to the iShares MSCI Emerging Markets Islamic UCITS ETF. Its ISIN is IE00B27YCP72. This is not a complete portfolio by itself. Think of it as an add-on. It gives you exposure to emerging markets that developed market funds do not properly include. But do not assume emerging markets automatically means perfect diversification. A halal emerging markets ETF can still be heavily influenced by a small number of technology and semiconductor companies. So remember this. More countries does not always mean less concentration. Now let us move to the United States. For U.S. investors, two well-known halal ETFs are SPUS and HLAL. SPUS is the SP Funds S&P 500 Sharia Industry Exclusions ETF. It charges 0.45% per year. It gives exposure to roughly 200 Sharia-screened companies from the S&P 500 universe. HLAL is the Wahed FTSE USA Sharia ETF. It tracks the FTSE USA Sharia Index. Its annual expense ratio is 0.50%. Both can be serious choices for someone who wants halal US equity exposure. But both have the same major limitation. They are US focused. They are not complete global portfolios. So do not buy SPUS or HLAL believing that you now own the whole world. You mainly own a Sharia-screened part of the US market. That may be exactly what you want. But you need to understand what you are buying. Compare SPUS and HLAL based on their underlying index, screening approach, fund size, cost, holdings, and Sharia governance. Do not choose only because one had a stronger return last year. A great year for technology can make one fund look brilliant. But that may simply mean it has more exposure to the sector that had a great year. Now let us talk about Canada. One practical fund to research is WSHR. That is the Wealthsimple Sharia World Equity Index ETF. It is listed in Canada, which can make life easier if you save and invest in Canadian dollars. Its management fee is 0.50%. It is designed to give Sharia-compliant exposure to global developed market equities. Canadian investors may also be able to access US-listed ETFs such as SPUS and HLAL. But then you need to think about currency conversion, account type, broker costs, and tax treatment. This is why the best fund is never only about the ticker. It is also about the investor. Now let us move to Australia. One locally listed option is ISLM, the HIWS Equities Fund Active ETF. It gives global Sharia-compliant equity exposure. But it is not a passive index ETF like iShares, Invesco, SPUS, or HLAL. It is actively managed. That is a completely different decision. Passive funds try to follow an index at a lower cost. Active funds try to choose investments, react to opportunities, and outperform. But active funds usually charge more. So before buying a locally listed active halal fund, ask yourself, am I happy paying more for active management and local access? Or do I prefer a lower-cost passive fund, even if it takes more work to access? Neither answer is automatically right. But they are very different choices. But before you choose any ticker, there is one deeper question most people skip. How is the fund actually screened, monitored, and purified? Think of halal funds like different restaurants claiming to serve halal food. They may all say, halal, but you still want to know, who certified it? What standards did they use? How often do they check? And what happens if something does not meet the standard? Halal ETFs work in a similar way. Some use MSCI Islamic screening. Some use Dow Jones Islamic screening. Some use FTSE Sharia screening. Some have named Sharia boards and annual certificates. Some provide purification calculators. Others leave more responsibility with you as the investor. So before you invest, ask 3 questions. Who is the Sharia board or screening provider? How often are the holdings reviewed and rebalanced? And how is non-permissible income calculated, disclosed, and purified? Because low fees matter. A long track record matters. A large fund size matters. But if the Sharia process does not match the standard you trust, then it is not the right fund for you. So here is the whole decision in one sentence. Choose the halal fund you can actually access in your country, understand clearly, trust from a Sharia perspective, afford to hold for decades, and stay invested in when markets get difficult. That matters far more than chasing last year's best return or copying someone else's ticker. Which country are you investing from, and what is the one thing you find hardest about halal investing? Write both in one comment. For example, UK, purification. Canada, choosing between funds. Australia, finding low-cost options.